Vine was sitting in fear and but trembling. She didn't know what to do. She didn't want to marry him because she still loved her ex-husband who had died a few years ago. But she was forced, and he was forcing her to marry him just because his friend told him that they looked good with each other. He was a crazy and impulsive man. He wasn't understanding her. She didn't want to marry again. She always thought that she would betray her ex-husband if she married again. She wiped her tears and wanted to run, but she had no place to go. He could find her at any place of the earth. He was perfect, but she didn't want him. She saw him as a she hated him. She saw him in the car for the first time. He's accused of doing things, and there she talked to him, and she didn't have any bad intentions for him. But there he liked her, and then he sent his parents to her house, and her parents couldn't reject it because they knew the power his family had. But their power was useless because they were hurting and forcing people. She didn't hate him or love him. She just didn't want to marry again because she thought that nobody could ever love her like her ex-husband. She was still trying to find the man who killed him, but couldn't. She wanted to kill that man with her hands who killed her husband. She could forget everything but not her ex-husband. She still loved him and could never move him from him. She didn't care about her wife. She just wanted to find out the man. She went in the court for that, and there he saw her. She wiped her tears while thinking about it. She sat down in front of her when her mother came. Because I don't want to marry, she said, while sobbing. When it's been 5 years, you're young. I don't want to see you spending your life all alone. You also deserve happiness. Come out of this grief. Forget him. I can't. I can't forget him. I will never find a man like him. Jungkook is also a good man. He wants to marry you, and believe me, your life will be so good after marrying him. He will be a good husband, and stop thinking that he is forcing because he directly sent his parents. Meanwhile, you will get the life you dreamt of. I know that your parents' mother actor. He will be a loving husband. Believe me, he will not hurt you. She had a fear of marrying the wrong man. She had a fear of it being, which fear of being treated like trash. She always imagined that the respect Evan gave her, nobody could ever give her. And the most surprising thing that was, Evan married her after he married her because he was obsessed with her and he gave her so much respect and love, so she fell in love with him. He talked with her and asked her for marriage, and she refused, but he didn't say anything because he had a plan. He met up with smart, he only wanted her, even though she changed so much after the death of Evan. She became a patient of depression. She started to get chubby. Not too much, but she gained weight. She was surprised when Jungkook asked for marriage because he was too handsome, but he still wanted to marry her. She came out with her mother, and he was sitting well smiling. He sat down with him, and it was an engagement ceremony. He gave her a beautiful ring, and she didn't want to look at him because he was too afraid of him. He knew that so he didn't say anything. She sadly sat there while everyone's talking, and her mind goes back. Flashback one came to the restaurant with her friends, and she came to feel relaxed. But a few minutes later, he came and sat down on the other table. She looked at him and ignored him, but she thought that he went there to meet someone. But he didn't leave. She felt to fear. She was sitting with his friends. Flashback and she looked at him and he was handsome. She was seeing that close for the first time. He closed his smile and didn't look evil. She just stared at him. Why do we start looking like a good man? She turned her face and she something for him. She lowered her head but didn't say anything. He just stared at her. He wanted to talk with her, but when she got comfortable, she always pretended like he didn't exist. But he always noticed that she didn't talk to him, but he wanted her to talk to him because the ceremony went well and they got again. She was sitting in a room was staring at the photo of them. They were looking good. She started to feel that he wasn't as evil as she thought. He didn't even touch her. He didn't even try to. She just wanted a good life, but she still loved Evan. He had a special space in her heart. He was her first love and husband, but face changed and she died and she was marrying Jungkook. A few days later. And a few days later, they both got married. She was sitting in front of him and he was checking the chart. She was staring at him with fever eyes, but he was warmer. He looked at her. You must be tired, so changed. She nodded and got up, but he was still checking the drawers and her eyes were at him, and then she bumped into the wall. He looked at her and she immediately went inside the closet. He smiled at her Selena. She came back and had a fear, but he didn't say anything and she laid down. Her heartbeat was so fast, her back was facing him. She peeped at him and he was staring at the fifth floor. She immediately turned her face and closed her eyes. He smiled because he knew what she was doing. He lay down while staring at the ceiling. She was holding the pillow so tight. He looked at her and thought that she had slept, so he put the blanket at her and then he also lay down while turning towards the other side. Their backs were forcing each other. And the next day, she opened her eyes and he wasn't beside her. She felt so hungry, but she didn't want to touch anything. She got up and apple. She started eating it. Because she didn't eat anything, he came out of the closet and she stopped and stared at him. She put the apples back. You can eat it, he said, and he was looking so handsome. He is not bad, as I think she thought that. She came out and sat down beside him. Everyone smiled and Ryan felt strange. Suddenly her mind went to the past when she sat in with them and for the first time. The past was only giving her pain, so she decided not to think about it. She had the breakfast and they both were silent. He got up and left to talk with his father and she left with her mother-in-law and his friend. She was crying, but suddenly Mrs. Joy said, yeah, you are overweight. It's so perfect. Didn't you feel complex by standing beside him? I heard that you are so perfect and beautiful. Now what happened? You are looking so fat. When I looked at yourself, my weight was 60. I will try to lose it. Try, you need to lose it if you want to good with him. Because I always want a perfect girl for you, for him. I don't want to deny what he wanted, but now you are his wife and people will talk bad about him. And you also you lost weight and you skin care. Sleep on time. Okay, they might be hurtful that people talk behind your back. I heard so much. I was also like you. But how do you get so fat? She asked her cousin Joy to her this much. Mrs. Joy asked for smiling. He looked at Mrs. Joy was making fun of her while calling her fat and she was smiling. When I looked at his cousin and laughed and smiled. They all were trying to hide their smiles. She felt so bad. She felt embarrassed. She just knew it for lowering her head. They all were talking but her mind was on her weight. He came back and looked at her. Mom, where is Vine? He asked. She went to her room. She was feeling not okay. He nodded and walked behind her, even though they weren't too much alike. But he cared for her. He wanted her to meet everyone. He suddenly entered the room and she feeling nervous. She was sitting on the bed saying, why do you come here? She didn't say anything. Come with me. She nodded and got up. He was the only one who was kind to her. Did someone say anything to you? No, he did. They walked out and she followed him and she started to realize that he wasn't a bad as she imagined. She walked with him and they met so many people, but she felt good because he was making her feel special. She only followed him after that. His family and close relatives were there. As if to have a party after his marriage, she followed him everywhere, but he didn't even stop her. He let her follow him. Now he was walking towards the bathroom and she didn't even notice that she was following him like a penguin. He was smiling and he opened the door and she stopped and he looked at her while smiling. She started back but he pulled her inside and closed the door and laid her on the wall. Her husband and he was smiling. He slowly touched her face and my penguin follow me everywhere. He said and she pushed him. I'm not here. She walked out. She looked back and he was walking behind her. She turned her face and waited for him to stop so she could also stand beside him. First he finally stopped. She stood beside him and he smiled so she didn't follow. She didn't want him to feel that she didn't have anyone to their acceptance. Just when they would think she was with him like a glue. She everyone think that they were in a relationship before the marriage. In the room she was staring at it because he wasn't there. She was just started afraid to touch things. She got up and saw a photo album. She grabbed it and it was his photo. He was the only son of his parents. They loved him so much and always protected him because they didn't want to lose him. She smiled after seeing him with his parents. Suddenly she saw a photo which was after him. It was she started not to look, but she felt like he was holding her because his weight was more than her. So do you like it or no? He asked her and she looked at him and put back. He was so sensitive and like that. She lay down on the bed and came towards her. She looked at him and he was close to her. He was leaning towards her. He fell on the bed while laughing. He angrily put the blanket over her and ignored him. While laughing, he went to the closet. She stared at him as she always did. She came back and lay down. After a few minutes later, she thought that he fell asleep, so she peeped at him. I'm not sleeping, he said. She didn't say anything and lay down and fell asleep. He smiled at his sweetness. He said at her. Days passed like that. He never forced her. She also started seeing him in a good way. She stopped eating because of her mother. She didn't want to get caught fat again. She was sitting in front of the mirror and he looked at her saying she was still sleeping. Why do you start losing weight? He asked. Did someone ask you to do this? No, I just felt like I need to get pretty. He smiled. But when were you ugly? You were always pretty. She became shy. I will never find you overweight. You were perfect. Now stop losing it, okay? She got up and walked in the bathroom. At night, he was sleeping, but suddenly she saw herself again standing at the same spot. It was raining. Carter Raymond was standing beside her. He looked at her with a beautiful smile. Raymond said that was just a big dream, she said, and he nodded. She hugged him tightly. Don't leave me again. I won, and then again. The man came, she said, while protecting him and hiding him behind her. The fear was clearly seen on her face. But there was a few men came out of the car and put their against them. She didn't want to even to her, so she didn't leave him, and then they instead of him. He opened her eyes and while shaving and her tears were falling. Jungkook loved her at her hugged her. Immediately she was in a very bad condition. Please don't do this. She still didn't come out of her dream and come back. It was just a bad dream. She came back to her senses and she started crying. He hugged her and she didn't push him because she hugged him tightly. She was so afraid. Everything is okay, he said, and she nodded. They lay down and she was still hugging him. Now so sleep. No, I'm afraid to sleep. I will see that again. He had her son and hugged her and she didn't know that she fell asleep. He kissed her head and also closed his eyes. She was so traumatized. The next day she was at work and his parents were at a hotel also normal. She spent all day alone. She wasn't well. She wanted to move on because it at her like hell. She didn't want to forget him. She could never because she always wanted to move on. The day was the most traumatized for her. She always dreamed about that. Seeing him dying again in her tears were hurting her. But she wouldn't stop finding those men. She learned and leaned her back on the couch and her head was hurting like as she talked to her mother and her mother told her to move and start a new life with Jungkook and she also told her because he didn't deserve the cold baby. He was also kind. She was staring at the ceiling and then the maid came back and The maid told her and she came here and he was going back. She didn't want to leave. She wanted to have a dinner with him, Jungkook. She called him and he stopped. We called him by his name for the first time. He looked at her and, where are you going? Let's have dinner. She said and he was surprised. He felt so good. So he agreed. He walked towards her and they walked towards the dining table. They sat down and he was just staring at, looking at her. It was surprising for him to see her like that. He understood that she was there to accept him. They ate the dinner and he got up to go because he needed to complete his work. But when will he come back? He was getting shocked by her every question. 1 month later, she was staring out while putting her head on his shoulder. They were holding hands. She finally found love again. She closed her eyes and fell asleep. She started to forget about Evan. She got to Jack so much with him. He loved her so much. She always wanted a loving man. They were coming back from the band party. She was feeling so weak. She was tired. She lost so much weight. He laid down on the bed and took off her hair heels. She put the blanket at her and went to the closet. But when he came back, she was sitting while waiting for him. She couldn't live without him. She felt fear in his presence. She couldn't live alone without him. She felt fear without him, even though she was afraid to go to sleep without him. He walked towards her and sat on him. She hugged him. Don't get angry, I will stop it. He nodded and looked at her. She put her hand on his chest and I like your heartbeat. He smiled. I like it when I hear it every day. She looked at him. His hair was beautiful. Smiled. She leaned toward him. He wrapped his arm around her. Many months she was walking, but her head was spinning like hell. She was going to eat something. Because she made up her mind she would eat everything. Suddenly she felt dizzy and she sat down. She grabbed her head and then she fell on him. She opened her eyes and he didn't say anything while holding her head. She was looking well, but he didn't say anything. He kissed her hand and she was not in the condition to wear that clothes. He sat there and they talked right, but he didn't tell her. He got up and left to talk to the doctor and his mother came. Well, now see what happened because of you. Of course, we lost an ear because of your dumbness and you became so weak. This is very hard for you to I didn't say anything and just listened to her while her heart was breaking. She wanted to cry, but she controlled herself. And Mrs. Joy laughed. While Van Chris started crying, she wanted, did mom tell you? Does it matter? He walked towards her and wiped her tears and trying to calm her down, but still he didn't tell him that his mother was taunting her and hurting her. He was so worried for her. At home, she was lying while hugging him and her face was blank. She looked at him. Jungkook, can I have a baby again? He nodded. Yes, you cannot stop worrying. Focus on your health. She nodded. Jungkook, he hummed, I love you. He smiled and looked at her. I really love you. I don't know when I fall in love, but I love you. I love you too. She smiled and he kissed her hand. And a year passed. She really started loving him. He was the best for her, but she didn't forget Evan, but she still wanted to find out who did that to him. She wanted to know the reason. Evan was a rich man. He also was a rich, powerful, and many friends who she wanted to know everything. She even talked to Janko about it and he said that he would try to find it. She was living happily, but everything just got better. She was happy with him. She moved on and started to forget about the past traumas. And here she was trying to find some more photos of him. She was smiling while seeing the photos and suddenly she saw a photo of him and with Evan. She found Evan. With him, she looked at the more photos and there were so many photos of it. It looked like they were best friends. And then she opened the other door and she saw many different things and she found the photo of Evan and her. She found and she grabbed the photo which broke her heart. It was the photo of Evan in which he was laying and she was crying over him. Why these are doing in his house? She talked to herself in worry. And then she opened her eyes because she felt strange. She sat down and opened it and then she started knowing about them. They were best friends since childhood. Jungkook trusted him more than himself. I always saw them together. Their family were friends. Jungkook and Evan both were so lonely in friendship. This friends at childhood together and they achieved many things together and never know that they would become enemies one day. Young was sitting at the table stranger. Teenagers Simon came as smirking and stared at the girl. Like he asked, he turned his gaze. I saw you staring at her. Now tell me the truth. What is her name? Her name is Fan. She studied in the same school as us. I like her. Really, are you serious? He nodded. Then, we will turn 20. I will propose her. If she doesn't listen to me, then I'll marry her. What? That's a good idea. He stared at her and she didn't have any idea about them. She was sitting with her friends. She is beautiful. Don't look at her in that way. No, I won't. Don't worry. She is the love of my best friend. He nodded and Evan again stared at her. Everything was going well. They were best friends after that. After that one day, when they turned 20, Jungkook came to know that Evan married her. They were so shocking. That was so shocking for him. Where he had made lost his mind. He never thought that his friend would do that to him. And would snag the girl he loved. Jungkook was sitting angrily and she wasn't your property, so I can do what I want. Now she is my wife, and she accepted me. Got up and walked towards him. You know that. He punched him, and they both got into a fight. I trusted you. I did what I wanted. I don't care about your trust now. I also love her. Married. They both got into her. Earlier fight, Jungkook was so hurt because his bad childhood best friend broke his trust and also they broke their friendship. Jungkook went out of the country because he didn't want to see him. And Evan might the same way. Jungkook told him he told him that if she refused, then Evan did that. He thought that he would find another girl. Jungkook had whole powers to break his marriage, but he didn't do that. Every time many months passed and Evan got into a bad habits. He was a good husband. He wasn't kind to people. He had so many families, and one day he even though he was still young. And that boy was a cousin of Jungkook. Evan was ruling everything. Jungkook came back and his family wanted revenge. Jungkook was crying, standing suddenly, and he said, don't worry, he will face the same. He looked at his dad and he knew that what would happen next. He didn't stop them because it was not an unforgivable attitude. He couldn't kill anyone. Once unshaven but turning the place, and then Evan was coming out of the building with his wife. He was everybody didn't know that his dad was standing right in front of him. He came out and then he then sent by Jungkook. Everyone knew that Jungkook and he died at the moment. Everyone was nothing without Jungkook. It was heartbreaking. My heart was broken after reading and her heart dropped and her tears started falling. She didn't know what to do but Jungkook. There was so much shocking and heartbreaking first thing I told her that she loved Evan so much that she couldn't bear that. She got up and grabbed him, which was his second. She kissed Evan's foot and he walked out. She was standing in the room while she was checking the file. Suddenly he looked back and she was standing while pointing at him. He had a rage in a messy smile. And so you found out why are you angry? I don't think that he did wrong what he and he got what he did when I for an eye. He didn't put the so you will he walked towards and stood in front of okay if you need to love. I can see the hate, but where is the love? Didn't you love me or have I just a toy for you to raise your face or did you just use me to move on? Why are you ready to work for her? He got what he deserved and then became silent and he was staring at her, but in the end, she didn't care for. She cared about who he is or he was. But did she do wrong or so? Did she Django do wrong or not? But did he even or not? That thing was clear.